believe that the Earth is shifting. In fact, an earthquake, for example, a few years ago when they had that 10.0 or in Chile, the tilt of the Earth moved 3 feet.
I see.
So an earthquake of that size can't have that effect.
Oh, I see. That and any other meteorites and things that might fall on Earth.
Meteorites.
That can change too.
Meteorites aren't covered in the book.
You didn't mention that.
But you know that they're out there.
Mm-hmm. Your book kind of has a philosophical kind of feel to it.
Yes.
And you do delve into the spiritual aspects.
Yes.
And the psychological
aspects also.
So what has changed? Is this book entirely about a certain period, or are you talking about the time when you first came across the psychic and now or the medium, and then now you're talking about something at the present day level?
Actually, it's more at the present day level now. Yeah. And it's more moved into man has to change his thinking. He has to change his thinking. And it's not just in the way that he lives, it's also in the way that he thinks.
I see.
Because he has to start, to understand that there's no political system on earth that's going to work if you choose to hoard instead of share and hate instead of love. Mm-hmm. None of them will work.
Oh, that is beautiful.
None of them will work. And so he has to change his thinking. And actually the second and third books move more towards philosophical aspects of what this change is, whereas the first one is more about what the physical aspects,
Your first book was recognized and received honorable mention where in New England?
And also in New England and Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Okay.
Not surprised it would be Los Angeles.
I see.
Because they've always been very conscious of Earth movements, in that area.
And your second book also received honorable mention.
Yep, in Paris
and London. So how did that happen? Like it's outside.
Well, there are organizations that you can send your material to be reviewed.
I see.
And then to be rated.
So your second book, you were mentioning that has more scientific kind of aspects to it?
More scientific and more historical, because it also delves into the subject of Atlantis and where the Atlanteans came from, and the fact that they used Egypt as a colony.
Okay. I believe that since your books are nonfiction,
yes,
they are so full of real facts and your own research on the subjects.
A lot of it. Some of it is also what I would call automatic writing. There are certain sections of the book. So
being a software engineer, you changed to writing, but that's because of your fundamental background, literature, right? You have a degree in English literature?
I have a degree in English literature from Boston University, and for a couple of years I taught, and for a couple of years I also worked as a journalist. So some of the books have that journalistic style about them.
I have found in my own experience that a lot of scientific engineering kind of people, they make good philosophers. And you probably have that humanities instinct with philosophy in it.
I think it's well, Einstein's a good example of that. If you look at some of his quotes and some of his quotes, throughout the years, yes.
Let's move on to your third book.
Okay.
Truth Never Changes, Conceiving a Spiritual Democracy. Maybe if you can get a zoom in on this. We forgot to ask them to zoom in on the books. so our audience can see your books. I think these are books that everyone should read.
I think so too.
Especially the Generation X and Y people.
Especially them.
Yes.
Because they're going to be living in the new world a lot longer than we will.
And I'm thinking people of our generation kind of know some of these facts, but you've done a wonderful job of researching and putting them together.
Well,
and just telling us what we should be doing, really, in terms of changing our way of life and the way of thinking.
in the third book, I used two models. I used the Greek model of philosophy because I must admit that I'm a follower of Plato and Socrates and Aristotle, and I love their work. And I also used the model of the Hebrew prophets.
Oh, I see.
Just to juxtapose them, to just show how different, rationality is from faith. But they're not mutually exclusive. And living in the world that we live in right now, there are people out there who want you to think that they are mutually exclusive. But in reality, they're really not. That sometimes it's a journey from one to the other and back again that you have to make.
Does one have to have faith? On faith in what?
I think you have to have faith in yourself. And that's where it starts. Okay. Because in my opinion, the kingdom of God is within.
So if you want to know about the truth and that it doesn't change, I mean, that's your title. So I'm trying to figure out what your message is with that.
My message?
Yeah.
Well, there's a section of one of the books.
This is your recent book, The Truth Never Changes, Conceiving a Spiritual Democracy.
If I could take the book off of here,
definitely.
there's something at the end.
When was this
that I'd
published?
like to read.
This book?
In August of this year.
Oh.
So I'm going to read a short section of this, just a couple of sentences that kind of get to what the actual message of the book is. In the final analysis, the choice one is facing is whether to be enslaved by an ideology or to be free of it. The solution one seeks is couched in each individual response to the most important of questions. Are you capable of thinking for yourself? Be assured ideology will not save you. Rather, it will damn you to a predetermined set of expectations. It is not the truth that will set you free, but the change that will bind you.
I see. But then it's a difficult concept, right? To think for yourself. Everybody wants to think for themselves or wants to believe that they think for themselves. But then their thoughts and their ideas are shaped by their environment, their own teachers, their family, their now more so with the political parties.
Yep.
So how does one stay true to oneself and think for themselves?
They get the right education. And what I mean by the right education is, the purpose of education is to teach one how to think, not what to think and why to think it. And the consequences for not thinking for yourself is that there's always someone who's going to come along who's want to think for you. Mm-hmm. And you have to cut them off at the pass, so to speak, at a very early age. That's why when Plato set up his school in Greece, that was their purpose, to educate humanity.
What do you think is happening with the education here in the U.S. In the last 50 years?
I think that they've moved away from teaching the one thing that could save us, and that is root cause analysis.
Could you tell a little bit more about how that should be done?
Well, I think that instead of making people take tests, and I think they should be teaching them how to solve problems. And the way to solve problems is to be able to look at the root causes. And that's what root cause analysis is. And I know this because I worked in the computer industry for a while. I know the difference between a symptom of a problem and a cause of a problem.
Yes.
And we have to start getting to what the cause of the problems are.
I was taught very early in the management studies by a very good teacher who was trying to teach us how to go into a company and learn what the real problems are, the cause of the problem, not the symptoms. And people keep looking at the symptoms and keep giving quick fixes for the symptoms, and it doesn't work at the company level, at the country level,
No, it doesn't.
Even at the individual level.
It's not ever going to work. The way that.
And you have very few people that can really find root causes of things.
Right.
Because symptoms are what everybody gets carried away with.
There are very few people who know the difference between what a symptom is and what a cause is. And that gets to, the root of our problem.
I know I don't know about US, but I know the education system in other areas around the world often is kind of controlled by politics, and people think they can control the people if they keep them ignorant. So what do you think about that?
Oh, I'm a fan of Plato and Jefferson and Paine and Adams and Madison, and their credo was educate the public in every case, because that's the only way democracy is ever going to work, is you need an educated populace.
And you need people to think for themselves,
yes.
And not just toe the line.
Not to just be told what to do.
That is wonderful. I liked, all your good series. Are you going to add to that series?
I don't know, because I'm kind of moving in another direction now, where I'm writing a novel.
I see.
And I have another book that I've been kind of working on bits and pieces of it for a while,
I see.
about the Gnostics. But I don't know if that will ever see the light of day.
I do hope more people can pick up your books and read them. And for all of you who have been watching, I do hope you tune in again next week, because we are going to be talking about Michael Kilday's new book, award-winning book, Yippie's Lament. And I hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any questions or comments, please write to practicaltalktime@yahoo.com. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me, Usha.
And I do hope you'll come back again.